Hello, and welcome back to Spittin' Sports with Lamar. I am Casey Lamar, and I'm coming at you from the 256. Today, as every Monday, will be for the rest of college football season. It's a recap of what happened this weekend with college football. I'll just quickly go over every ranked team that played, just kind of talk about what happened because that's where most of the big storylines happen. So we'll just stick to this format for now, but let's just go ahead and get right into the games. Right off the top, number one Alabama proved once again that they just how good they really are. They put up 62 points on a conference foe on the road in Ole Miss. Ole Miss obviously started out with the bomb for the touchdown, and then they kept trying to get back to the big receivers, but Alabama was just too much, and their offense was just ridiculous. Alabama put up 28 points in the first quarter. All right, yeah, 28 points in the first quarter and put on another 21 in the second. So it was 49-7 at halftime. And then they scored one defensive touchdown in the third to make that was their only touchdown of that quarter. And then they also kicked a field goal in the fourth. They ended up with 62 points. They just absolutely thoroughly dominated Ole Miss in that game. It was just crazy. Seeing that offense do what they can do is it's scary. It's very scary. You just don't know what you're going to see. Alabama has another tough game. Well, that was expected to be a tougher game than what they've had. Obviously, it wasn't. But this week, Alabama does have to play Texas A&M at home. But anyway, Alabama, they are as good as we thought they were. They just keep rolling. First SEC team ever to score 50 points in the first three games. Just ridiculous. Clemson, number 2 Clemson, they played Georgia Southern. They won 38-7. No issues there. Same thing with Georgia against Middle Tennessee, 49-7. No problems there. Ohio State and TCU, it was back and forth for quite a little while. Ohio State finally put them away late in the game. Ended up winning 40-28. They just were too much in the end for TCU. Ohio State's very, very good. Dwayne Haskins may be the best quarterback. I know everybody talks about Tua, but Dwayne Haskins is he's filthy back there playing quarterback for Ohio State. You had Oklahoma. They struggled for a little while with Iowa State, but eventually, obviously, they put them away, and they won 37-27. But that was a return game from last year. Remember, Iowa State beat Oklahoma on Oklahoma's home field, but Oklahoma gets it done this time. They won 37-27. The big news for the Big Ten in Wisconsin. Wisconsin fell to BYU, 24-21. Wisconsin had a chance to tie the game late, but they missed the field goal and ultimately lost the game to BYU. Not good for Wisconsin. Not good for the Big Ten. Of course, Ohio State beat TCU, but BYU goes into Wisconsin and beats Wisconsin on their home field. What are they going to do now? They still have a chance, obviously. They play in the Big Ten. They play some big games. But bad time to be a Wisconsin fan at the moment after 3 weeks. Probably the biggest game of the weekend, you had LSU and Auburn, especially in the SEC. You had LSU at Auburn. That was tooth and nail the whole time. LSU jumped out quick, 10-0 in the first 2 quarters, and then Auburn put 14 on the board and put another 7 on the board in the third. But LSU fought back, kicked that game-winning field goal as time expired. Ended up beating Auburn 22-21. That might have been a passing of the hot seat. I'm not saying Gus Malzahn's on the hot seat by any means, but next in line, because I think Otron might have gotten off the hot seat. To be honest, just 3 weeks into the year, they've got 2 top 10 wins already. They've proved to have better quarterback play than what they've had. But to go into Auburn, beat Jared Stidham and the Auburn Tigers, huge for LSU, and they get Alabama on their home field this season. Huge game. It was a great game to watch because it looked like LSU might jump out and be able to hold on to it. Auburn fought back, and then LSU, and then looked like it was Auburn, and then LSU fought back and won it in the fourth quarter. So, very good game. LSU comes out on top. The next one, Notre Dame. They played host to number 8 Notre Dame. They played host to Vanderbilt. Very close game, tooth and nail, especially in the second quarter. The second half. Notre Dame was up 10-0 after the first, and then Vanderbilt snuck their way back in and had a chance to possibly win, but they just couldn't capitalize. And Notre Dame escaped with another win, close win at home, 22-17 over the Vanderbilt Commodores. Stanford played UC Davis. They took care of business as you would expect, 30-10. You probably expect them to beat them a little bit worse than that, but 30-10. Stanford stays undefeated. You had Washington. They had a tough road test. They went into Utah. They had to go to Utah and play the Utah Utes. Washington ended up winning 21-7. Unfortunately, didn't get to see any of that game. But Washington, they just did what they had to do, and they beat Utah 21-7. Penn State cruised again this week. They played Kent State. They cruised 63-10. No issues for Penn State there. Mississippi State, easy, just cruised against Louisiana Lafayette against the Raging Cajuns, beat them 56-10. So no issues there for Mississippi State. Oklahoma State, Boise State. This was Boise State traveling to a Power 5 team, and we've come used to seeing them knocking off some bigger teams, but Oklahoma State took care of business pretty easily in the end of the game of this one. Oklahoma State won 44-21. They went into half with a 17-7 lead, and then obviously just finished that game up 44-21. So Boise State, obviously, they still have a shot to be that Power 5 team outside of, not the Power 5 team, the Group of 5 team to make it to the Big Bowl, but they can't lose another game. Oklahoma State was really a chance for them to make a statement that they're probably going undefeated this year, but they didn't. They got beat pretty well at Oklahoma State. You had Michigan taking on Southern Methodist, SMU at home. Michigan in the big house, too much for SMU, way too much. 45-20. Michigan there, easy win for them. Oregon, they picked up their third straight win, 35-22 over San Jose State. You would expect that margin to be a little bit bigger, but San Jose State scored some late, or later in the game, I should say, and they Oregon still won pretty easily, 35-22. Miami Hurricanes, they went and played at Toledo, which is pretty interesting to me. But Miami took care of business pretty easily there, 49-24, no issues. Another big game of the weekend, even though it's two teams that didn't look so hot after 2 weeks. Texas played at home against USC Trojans, and after the first quarter, it was all Texas. USC was up 14-3 after one, but Texas just took it to them after that. 37-14 was the final. The Longhorns really put a beating on the USC Trojans. Just don't know what to expect out of those two teams each week. 3 weeks ago, Texas lost to Maryland, and then Maryland got housed by Temple this past week. So, crazy thing. Each week's different, but Texas back on the right track, headed back to the right direction after that week 1 stumble. But Texas 37-14. And then we had another top 25 team get upset. Arizona State traveled to San Diego State, and San Diego State beat the Sun Devils 28-21. San Diego State came out on top of that game. Wouldn't expect that after Arizona State, what they were able to do last week against Michigan State, but maybe they were still feeling a little bit too good from that game, and they choked. They choked up against San Diego State, 28-21 there for the Aztecs. We also had 3 top 25 teams. Their games ended up being canceled. You had Virginia Tech was playing host to East Carolina, canceled because of the hurricane. You had West Virginia traveling to North Carolina State, which at the end of the year, this game is going to have huge implications because West Virginia could have made a statement against beating NC State at NC State, and NC State could have made a statement by beating number 14 West Virginia, and it could have went a long way to the playoff hopes of those two teams. but that game had to be canceled because of the hurricane. So both teams missed out on an opportunity. No fault of their own, but they just both missed out on a big opportunity for a big marquee win. And then you had UCF. They were traveling to play at North Carolina. That game was canceled as well. But that's just a recap of Week 3. The Tide show that they're probably still that they are one of the best teams in the country, if not the best. Ohio State still looks good. Oklahoma still got the job done, and then of course Clemson and Georgia, no issues. Um, Georgia did jump Clemson to be number 2 this week in the AP poll, but nothing else changed too much besides LSU jumping up to 6, and Oklahoma State jumped 9 spots to 15. But that's really it for this, for the recap for Week 3. Let me know what you gathered from this week of college football, or anything that you noticed, anything like that. Yeah, just go ahead and drop a like, share the content, and subscribe to the channel. And like I said, go ahead and comment your thoughts on Week 3 and what you look forward to this coming week for Week 4, the college football season. But this has been Spittin' Sports with Lamar. I am Casey Lamar. I'll see you all tomorrow.